life coach and personal growth expert with SVM Initiatives, LLC. I want to tell you thank you so much for tuning in with us. Happy 2018 to all of you in TV land and on YouTube, where you can find us at Healing Conversations with Coach Vee. As a reminder, this show is pretty much centered around guests who come on and share their personal journey or a life challenge and then go into detail about their personal healing journey. However, for the month of January, we are highlighting service organizations that do great work to help the community heal as a whole. So, with that being said, I want to introduce my first guest for January, highlighting service organizations, a good friend of mine and who I call the Queen of Crisis Intervention, Miss Paulette. She is the founder and executive director of Urban Success Mentoring Organization. Hello, Paulette.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
No, thank you for coming. Like, it's negative something degrees today,
Right.
So I really appreciate you making the time to come into this space.
No problem.
As I mentioned to our audience, you're a friend of mine.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I know a fair amount of the work that you do and the great work that you do, which is why I reached out for you.
Mm-hmm.
But the point today is for you to give us more detail about exactly what Urban Success does, how you got it started, all those wonderful things. But before we get into the meat of that, would you mind just telling us briefly who Paulette is?
Gosh. Well, I'm a sign language interpreter by profession.
Mm-hmm.
I've been doing that since I was little.
Okay.
Grew up with deaf friends, deaf community, so I sign everything.
She does. She does.
I truly do. Yeah. It's just easier if you see it, right? You'll get it.
Mm-hmm.
But that has actually helped a lot in our work with Urban Success. So,
Okay.
but I started in that, and God always uses that and
Mm-hmm.
puts me somewhere with my signing skills. So
Okay.
He put me at a pretty rough inner city school
Okay.
back in 2000, and that didn't start Urban Success because my parents really started it when I was little,
Mm-hmm.
and instilled it in me when I was little. But I ran with it when I kind of needed to, out of necessity for where I was working, kind of get through day by day. And it started as a gang intervention program.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to see the violence stop. I wanted to see, the kids succeed, part of the success part of us. Wanted to see how I could help people,
Mm-hmm.
and really grew out of that into what we do today.
Okay. So y'all can't see because I have the cameras are set up, but I promise you, Paulette's hands are just moving like all over the place with like every word that she says. It's so cute. So you had mentioned that this was something that your parents started. You took it and ran with it, but you referenced that your parents had started. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Well, my parents raised me in church, raised me Christian, and my mom one day when I was probably about 9 or 10 years old, she went to the grocery store and came home with a family, homeless family.
Okay.
And we
Surprise.
took them, surprise, here's some new people. So we got them on their feet. My mom got them on their feet, this lady and her children. And, my mom's was famous for having an open door, having an open heart and an open door. And so everybody would come to her, family, neighbors, whoever she could help in the community, she would. My dad as well, but he worked a lot, so he was sort of in the background of everything. But, they really kind of taught me compassion and service and humanity, things like that. So that's what I wanted to do with Urban Success, was just reach out to people.
Okay. And then you mentioned also too that you were in some pretty rough school areas, and you wanted to see the children there succeed, which was a success part of Urban Success.
Yes.
How did that tie in with what you saw your mom do when you were little? Kind of put it all together for us.
It really kind of broke my heart to work in the schools I was working in, because these kids, I wouldn't make it a week, I don't think, coming from where they come from, living the way they live, having to survive at that age on their own a lot of times, just getting to know them more as I worked and getting to know them outside of the school on a personal level, really opened my eyes to a hurting population, and that really led the way for me to do community work, because they trusted me at school. They knew I would be okay to come into their community, come into their family life, get not affiliated, but familiar with their crews that they were associated with. And I didn't really understand anything about gangs at the time, but learned very quickly in that environment, and how to navigate each neighborhood, respectfully and compassionately.
Okay. So you were a familiar face. That's why they welcomed you
Yeah.
into the community. Because you know nowadays folks like, we don't know you. You're going to get the side eye and we're not going to cooperate. But because you had established a rapport at the school, if it's okay for me to say, you were able to go into the neighborhoods and help.
Right.
When you went into those neighborhoods, was it specifically like homes for the children that you serviced at the school, or was it brand new? How did that work out?
It started with the children I knew from the schools I was working in.
Okay.
And then they were like, oh, my cousin needs this or needs that. Can you give me a ride here or a ride there? And I do a lot of connecting through just driving.
Okay.
Well, Urban Success is a mobile unit.
Okay.
You know, we may never have an office because we drive through all the neighborhoods. We try to connect. We try to see who needs something, what happened that day. Who's out of diapers, you know, who's out of food, who had a rough day or had a fight, who's home by themselves, who's not home and should be home, that sort of thing. Okay. So it turned into the kids I know saying, oh no, she's speaking for me, you know, giving me that credibility to get into their neighborhood without paying the gatekeeper at the street $1 in some neighborhoods. And then just, you know, building from there, because everybody kind of sort of started to like me when they realized I didn't have like ill intentions. I'm not, you know, there for any purpose but to help.
Okay. So the things that you mentioned are what we would call basic necessities. You mentioned diapers. You know, that's not a luxury. That's a necessity for a child. So you were going into neighborhoods where I guess parents couldn't provide the day-to-day necessities for their children outside of their education at school, but they couldn't provide the things at home.
Right.
How did you get those supplies for the children or for the household?
Still to this day, I buy most of it personally.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I've had some diapers and some wipes and things donated over the years, and we get a little bit of financial contribution trickling in. And if I need to, I'll spend it on that. Most of that now goes to crisis runs and court escorts, but we still actively buy diapers and wipes, you know, just because I don't want anybody stealing to get something like that. I don't want one of the kids I know that's on the right track to be detoured over here and, you know, need to do something wrong when they know they can call me.
Right.
You know, if it's something I have the ability to help them with, there's no reason why I shouldn't help.
Okay. So you have what we call a bleeding heart.
Possibly, yeah.
So even though your foundation started with helping just with day-to-day necessities, I did hear you mention that now the financial support you get trickling in goes to court escorts and crisis intervention. Yes. So it sounds like that Urban Success has grown from initially, you know, helping with day-to-day things, but that you haven't steered from that you still have that as a foundation. So can you tell us more about the crisis intervention and the court escorts, a little bit what that is?
Well, as I was working in the community, I didn't realize at the time how much domestic violence and human trafficking was going on, especially among the youth. It's pretty severe, and it's really damaging to the children involved. So what I ended up doing was, you know, kind of as an alternative to the police or an assistance to the police, I would go when I knew that someone was hurt, and they would call and they'd say, yeah, somebody just got into it, can you go check on them? Or someone would be with me at the time and be like, hey, I gotta go check on my cousin or something, they just got into it. And so I would do that, and then we would take them someplace safe, get them something to eat, try to work the situation out to where that wouldn't happen again. They were not in that environment, or, you know, they were around safer people, whatever. But it got to be more and more intense, more and more violent calls, and a lot more physical trauma and emotional trauma to these girls, to where, you know, I really pushed them in a lot of ways to press charges, to follow through, start a paper trail, because if the next girl comes along and does her homework, she'll see that this guy, he's, you know, beaten 3 domestic violence charges. That's not good. I don't think I want to play with him, kind of thing, hopefully, if she's doing her homework, because it's all public record. So let's start a paper trail, because I really don't know any other way to get the word out about someone that is an abuser, a narcissistic sociopath or psychopath. So we realized that a lot of these domestic violence calls that frustrate the police, they fail because the women have no support system. We provide instant and continuous support. Our services are crisis intervention, yes, but once we're connected to you, we last for years. So, I mean, whenever you feel you're ready to leave is fine. I've got people with me since the beginning. But we make sure that she is safe, make sure that, you know, she's got food, make sure that if we need to get her into a shelter, we get her into a shelter. And then with the court situation, we'll make sure that, we escort her to court. Because
Okay.
a lot of times there's an intimidation factor,
Mhm.
or there's a fear of retaliation, and they don't want to follow through. That's the
Mhm.
biggest complaint the police have,
Mhm.
is that, we're going to be out here again next week, because she's going to drop the charges. Well, she drops the charges because she's scared to go to court. She's scared to go up against this guy and testify. So we make that a very comforting process, as comforting as possible, because we do work in teams and we provide that support for her.
Okay. I want to back up just a little bit when you said the youth. What age bracket are you talking about? Because I want to make sure that our audience has a clear understanding that we're not necessarily talking about grown folk, 30 and up. What age
It
bracket?
can be. We saved a 40-year-old man recently, but really the 5-year-olds up to about 22.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
very popular age for trafficking.
Okay.
Extremely destructive to them. So we're trying to identify families at risk, children at risk, get the word out that there are alternatives to that. Whatever the family is going through, we have lots of resources. If we don't have the resource, we'll find it for you. We'll partner with you. We'll help you however we can. We're not social workers that are going to take the kids away because you're struggling right now. We'll come into that situation and we'll help you through it. We'll struggle with you. We'll help you with what we call a blueprint, which is writing down your goals, your needs, an action plan, what you need to do to get yourself together.
And I just want to be clear, we're talking about from kindergartners to people who've been out of high school a couple years.
In college, freshmen in college, sophomores in college,
Yeah.
very at risk for trafficking and abuse. Yeah.
You had mentioned a pattern which deters the police from helping because they say, oh, we're going to be back next weekend, or we're going to be back in a couple days. And I just want to support that statement because in my own challenges in my early 20s, in my own challenges, it took my neighbor to the 5th phone call for me to move forward and press charges.
Wow.
And it was always that fear of, one, you're isolated. Abusers always isolate you. Whether it's family, whether it's friends, if you're doing things, in my case, I was working full-time and going to school full-time. At that point, had just gotten an insurance license, which caused me to travel outside of Cincinnati. Still state of Ohio, but travel outside of Cincinnati a lot. But I failed at that career because I'm about to tell my age, it's old school. My pager was always blowing up. And I had an arch two-way pager. And sometimes I was so far out of Cincinnati that I didn't have a signal. So when I would get back close within range, all these messages were coming through. Bad messages, bad messages. So out of fear, I failed that career because it didn't work with me traveling and he couldn't reach me. But as I mentioned, it took about the 5th time from my neighbor, because I never called on him, but my neighbor got tired of hearing it. And about that 5th call, yes, and if I ever see him to this day, I'm going to be like, look who I turned into. No, but it took that 5th call for District 5 to come out and say, ma'am, we've been out here and running down all my business, which was embarrassing, which was embarrassing. What you going to do? Because we're not going to keep running. With him in the apartment. They pulled me in the hallway, again, to try to separate me to see if I would speak. So I just want to say I understand how it's a challenge and the importance of support, because I felt I didn't have any support. I felt I didn't have any other place to go. So kudos to you in recognizing that and providing a service of support to the victims so that hopefully, like you said, they'll follow through with the charges. Do you see, since you've been actively at this, a higher success, you think, of women following through with charges because they feel like now they have a support system?
Definitely.
Good.
Yeah, absolutely. If they know that we're going to be there and walk them through it, and they can literally hide behind us if they need to.
Wow.
We're developing a pretty good rapport with judges in different counties because we service a 2-hour radius.
Okay.
So, and we have teams in other states, and all of us service 2-hour radiuses. But we're developing a pretty good rapport, and the judges will kind of let us do our thing. If we need to block physically so that she can speak, or if we need to speak on her behalf, and she just kind of is like, yeah, she adds 2 things, whatever. But we like to build them up. There's usually a period of time, at least between the restraining order and the court date, where we really just, kind of zone in on her and, feed her, feed her empowerment, feed her spirit, make sure that she knows she's worthy, and you know, that she has the power, you know, and we're all here for her because all the women on our team are survivors.
Okay.
So we've all been there.
Right.
We know what it was like to be isolated, to be almost killed by him. My domestic violence director by no means should be alive. So, you know, we have that background to offer when you think, oh man, I'm the only one, nobody can understand, nobody can relate. That's not true at all. We relate. We get this. And that's why we're so effective, I think. You know, we have a 100% success rate. We, in 17 years, almost 18 years now, we get out everybody we go for. We don't leave them there.
Okay.
And in 17 years, we've only had 5 go back. And we've only had 5 physical altercations with their narcissistic abusers. So
wow, out of almost 18 years.
Yeah, because we're very effective. We do it differently. We're very out of the box. We're not social workers. We're not cops. We're just survivors, good Samaritans, trying to help other people. We know what works. We do what someone either did for us or what we needed someone to do for us.
Right.
And it works.
Yeah. I tell a lot of my clients in my coaching, because one of my certifications is a peer recovery coach in addictions and mental health. And in order to get that, one of the criteria was you had to have had a shared lived experience.
Wow.
So in me listening to you and saying that your entire team has been on the other side and that the services you provide are what someone did for you to get you to where you are today, I'm a huge advocate of the importance of shared lived experience. Not knocking anyone with academia or the nice little plaques on the wall.
Sure.
However, our clients can tell if you're speaking from book knowledge
Yes.
or if you can really relate, like for real, like you've been through it, you have stories, you got war wounds, like you really, really understand. And I found that a lot of times clients, as you mentioned, are more responsive and more open because they can't come to you and say, you don't know, you ain't been through it, and walk away. Because now you can come back and, no, I do know, have a seat, let me tell you, you know, that type of thing. Can you give us I guess just a typical, I know nothing's typical, but an idea of what a regular day with the queen of crisis intervention looks like? I know you mentioned that you do that you do court escorts as well. What is that? How does that kind of go?
Every day is literally different. Most of our work starts at 5 o'clock when other people go home, you know, because most of the abuse, sexual assault, physical abuse, all of that happens overnight and on weekends and holidays. So New Year's Eve.
It's a schedule, it sounds like. That's crazy.
It is. It's ridiculous. We may have a court escort at 8:30 in the morning, so we'll get the team together. We'll pick up our client to make sure they get there safely.
So eliminate the transportation issue.
Yes, we transport them. We get through the court process. We get them something to eat. We might take them home. We'll drive through the community. We'll see what's going on. Who else is out there? You know, do we have another client in a crisis? Do we have somebody that, you know, that needs something? Just check on the neighborhood. Really, make sure we're keeping peace. If anything, we have quite a few clients right now. We're pretty overwhelmed at this point, and a lot of those clients need nighttime stuff. You know, they wake up with night terrors. Or they can't sleep for whatever reason. So we're texting and talking to them 2 or 4 o'clock in the morning. If they need to go to Waffle House, we'll go get something to eat. You know, whatever we need to do. But we are on call 24/7 to respond to crisis situations.
Okay. So what's that brief idea of what your day looks like when you in action? Like I need people to know. I know you the queen of crisis intervention. I want the people to know who Paulette, who she be. Give us just a glimpse or an idea.
Well, a crisis call. Just the other day we had 2 situations. One girl relapsed on drugs after being sexually assaulted and took off. And so we were trying to find her and used all of our resources to pull together. We finally found her, but it took us about 10 hours of searching and digging and trying to find her, and we were able to get her to the facility she needs to be in. Another situation, we got a call from actually just somebody in the community. We're in Winton Terrace, we're in Avondale, we're in Cumminsville, we're in all the neighborhoods, night and day. So they all know us, and we got a call from someone in Winton Terrace. And they said, you know, you need to get over here. Somebody's really in it. You know, they're getting hurt. So we run over there. We usually get like an address in 20 minutes. So we respond and we go over there. And, you know, I could hear them from the parking lot, throwing everything around, just everything is destroyed in the house. So I usually get 10 minutes, my team will tell you 5, but I usually get 10 minutes to try and de-escalate the situation. We want them to come out to us and let's leave. Let's get you in a shelter. Some people just want to get on a bus back home, wherever they're from. Let's get you out of there. Leave the situation. But this particular girl had 2 babies. And I had no idea where in the house the babies were. So we get there, and I'm knocking on the door, and she tries to open it, and he slams it shut.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, not all right. So she tried that again, and she opened the door. I went in, and you know, the house was just destroyed. Table upside down, TV smashed everywhere, glass everywhere. You're stepping over debris, and all of a sudden, he's just calm and cool, and starts sweeping the floor. And I'm
cleaning
looking
up
at
the
him
mess.
like, a minute ago you were gonna like do da 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 to her, and now you just calm and cool over there. No. So he finally was just like, forget it, I'm out of here, you know, and he leaves. I'm like, all right, good. So you're leaving with us? And so she rode with us for a little while. You know, that's actually one that we left somebody in her place because it was her home.
Okay.
All the shelters tend to stay full. So we're in the process of finding property that we could acquire as a nonprofit and turning it into a shelter because we don't, I mean, the Y probably hates my name at this point. I mean, we have a hard time hiding these girls.
Yeah.
So the shelters were full. I was on the phone while she was eating and the kids were playing or whatever. I was on the phone and could not get her a bed. And I finally look at my team, I'm like, I got no place for her. And they're like, well, we'll stay with her. And so my team literally spent 3 days at her house.
Really? Wow.
Because that was the only place. That was the safest place for her because he left. The shelters were full. It was her home. So, you know, that ideally, you know, we want to keep them in their homes because shelter life is difficult. It's very, very helpful. I love the shelters that we have around here. They're very supportive of our work, but it can be tough with babies to go to a shelter. So since it was her home, you know, we just stayed to make sure everything was okay.
So what I just heard was your team, not literally in seconds, but after you did your due diligence, was trying to find a shelter for her and was unsuccessful, said, hey, we got it. We're going to stay here with her. So putting that in perspective, that's their personal life being put on pause. If they have employment outside of assisting with your organization, that's if they had plans the next day personally to go shopping or to go do whatever, you know, they put that on pause without question because you went to them and said, hey, boom, boom, boom is, I can't find her a bed.
Right.
Plus with the babies.
Right.
Like that, that's more than a bleeding heart. Like that's dedication. That's just straight service and want to help your fellow man. So kudos and shout outs to the team.
They're amazing.
You know, just to say it, hey, I'm about to do this.
Yeah.
You know, it's hard for me sometimes to say after work I'm gonna change direction. You know, because once my mind is set, it's set. But just to hear that, like that's powerful, and that's why another reason why I wanted you to come and talk to me today and just share all the awesome work that you're doing, that your organization is doing, that your team is doing. Shout out to the team, because it's not just you. You know, you have to have a team.
I couldn't do it without the people on the team because it's just a safety factor. But you know, a lot of the guys on the team are the gang members that I've worked with for 17 years. You know. So I'm very comfortable with them. We know how to work with each other, and we're all volunteer. Nobody gets paid. This is all volunteer. We pour our money and our time and our effort into it because you get tired of burying women.
Wow.
You get tired of seeing women being snatched and disappearing.
Yeah.
So we want to do it whatever we can. If it was my daughter, my sister, my mother, I would want somebody to do that for her. And everybody on the team feels the same way.
And that's an even bigger piece. You said that y'all just out here doing it. There's no financial compensation.
No.
Wow.
No.
That's even more. I'm about to fall out my chair.
We're working on getting some funding, but it's very difficult because again, we're not, you know, a famous organization, and we're not social workers, and we're not professional bodyguards. So trying to get funding and explain to people why we do what we do. A lot of them, if you haven't lived it and been through it, that shared life experience, you don't understand why we're so passionate about saving these lives.
Absolutely.
You know, the children, the women, and even the men. I mean, it took us 4 hours to save a man that was taken to be trafficked for his organs, and we did it because of team effort, collaboration, we got him back in 4 hours.
I told you that this time goes so quick, and I feel like there's just like so much more to dig into. But I don't want to be remiss in allowing you to tell people how to get a hold of you, how they get a hold of you if they need your services, if they want to help out, if they want to donate. Like, tell us how we can reach you.
We have a Facebook page, urbansuccessmentoring.org, or mentoring organization, and then our website is urbansuccessmentoring.org. All of our contact information is on there. You can always call me at 513-800-1933. That's 513-800-1933. And you can check everything out on the website. There's links to everybody, but it's urbansuccessmentoring.org.
All right, urbansuccessmentoring.org.
Yes.
Can you quickly tell me in like a minute what keeps you going?
I believe in our motto, changing lives through action. It requires people to get involved and to help. We can't just sit back and not do anything. Isaiah 6:8 is what we're founded on. God asked, who shall I send and who will go for me? And Isaiah just, okay, I'll go. Where are we going?
Yes.
So, really God driven. I know that, there's somebody out there that needs our help. Like I needed it back in the day. And the guys that are on my team now really came through for me. And allowed me to feel safe and allowed me to rebuild my life and go through the healing process. So
you just give that back. And tell me your motto again.
Changing lives through action.
Changing lives through action.
Yes,
so don't just talk about it.
Something.
Exactly.
Yes, you have to go do it.
Yes,
it might be scary. It might be dangerous. It might be out of your comfort zone. It might be a little crazy, but go with it. Let God lead it and go with it. Because whatever it is that you need to do, there's a reason for it.
Ooh, give me chills. Well, it's a very small token, Paulette, but I am so grateful that you came into the space and shared the amazing work that your organization does.
Thank you so much.
So I'm going to hold this up since we got different camera angles.
Oh my goodness.
So this is a wristband, and it says Healing Conversations with Coach Vee, and it has our lotus flower on there. And again, it's just a small token of just saying thank you for coming into the space, to remind you that you grace the set, and to share with others the work that we're doing here, and then we can in exchange share that information as well. And I would love to have you back. Like I said, I feel like we didn't get to touch on, everything, but I think we got a lot of information out there today.
Good.
So thank you again so much, Paulette, for joining us. So again, thank you so much for tuning in to this week's edition of Healing Conversations with Coach Vee. If you want to learn more, if you want to reach Paulette, her number is 513-800-1933, or you can find her at urbansuccessmentoring.org. Okay, yes. Cool. So again, I'm Coach Vee, certified life coach and personal growth expert with SVM Initiatives, LLC. Thank you for watching us on Spectrum, and find us on YouTube at Healing Conversations with Coach Vee. We'll see you next week.